Autosport is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the SVRA. And if you haven't checked on SVRA lately, you need to look into them. Tony Perella, the owner, also now owns the Trans Am Series, and he owns the Formula 4 Series. They're doing a lot of things, so go to svra.com and see what they're doing. They're really growing like by leaps and bounds. We're also presented by Speedway, McGilvery's in Speedway, as well as VP Insurance, located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Get a hold of Mike Pardee if it's time to renew your insurance and see what he can do for you. You'd probably be surprised, like most of us have. You get better coverage for less money. He's located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. You give him a call, tell him what you need, he can tell you what he can do for you. Number is 317-248-0070. And if you've ever wondered, what's it like to drive an IndyCar? Well, you can find out what it's like to ride in one. You go to the Indy Racing Experience and take a ride in the two-seater. You'll see what it's like, and you'll be surprised at the speeds. But you'll think you're going 250 miles an hour, and you're going 190. Go to IndyRacingExperience.com, find a date that'll work for you, and sign up for it. And in the promo box, put Don K, and you get a 50% discount. We are today at the now recalled again Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's a Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. And we're in the offices, and I'm talking to the Vice President of Management and Operations for the facility, Mr. Kasey Kohler. And Kasey, I know you're busy because this is probably one of the biggest years you've had in some time going forward from now until October. But let's start with you. You're from Michigan. Somehow you got to Indiana University. I mean, there's a number of colleges up there that are pretty decent. How did you go from Michigan to IU?
Yeah, it's funny. So growing up, my father was involved in motorsports on the grassroots level. He was a bracket racer, so we would spend the time at the drag strip. We would come down here to this property every Labor Day weekend, probably starting when I was about 8 years old. And that was the first time. So that was my introduction to Raceway Park. But we would also go to the 500 for time trials as well, and we do that every year. And so my interest very early on has been, I always tell people, I can barely change my own oil. So it was never on the mechanical side. I was always interested in what brings all these folks to motorsports and what interests them. So when I had the decision to make for school, it was, hey, I knew I wanted to work in this industry. And there's always two places. You can either go to North Carolina, if you pursue that, or there was Indianapolis. And my interest has always been INDYCAR, open wheel, drag racing. And so Indiana was a natural fit for me. Wanted to be close to it, and that's how I fell in love with the campus at Bloomington and was fortunate enough to go to school there and earn a degree. And then I first, just to give you the transition of how I ended up in Indianapolis, I took an internship at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and at that time, Formula One was still there, right? And they said, hey, we're going to kind of start our first kind of intern program for ticket sales. And they brought in 3 of us and said, whoever sells the most tickets, we'll keep them full time, right? And this was before, yes, we had computers, but it started off was, here's a stack of paper of everybody that didn't renew from the previous Formula One event. And we sat in an office over there and smiled and dialed every day for 6 months. And fortunately, we sold a lot of tickets. And that was my intro into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and kind of led me to kind of where I am today.
Well, you spent 4 years there, and then somehow your ticket sales must have dropped off because you went to the Indy Racing League, and you were there for a couple of years in marketing. Now, your degree in marketing, is that what you went to IU for?
Actually, communication.
Oh, same thing.
Yep.
You can't talk to them, you'll never sell them.
That's what we try.
So, and you became the vice president of marketing for INDYCAR. And from there you went, now I wouldn't say a close friend, but a friend of Randy Bernard, who ran the professional bull riders. Was he there when you were there?
So Randy and I worked together at INDYCAR. Yeah. And then Randy had left and moved on to his next thing over at RFD TV. And I got a call from a headhunter that said, hey, we've got this marketing position. I was still at INDYCAR, and we've got this position at the PBR, and Randy still had a little bit of work with the PBR, but really it was all being run by Jim Hayworth and Sean Gleason. And Sean was my boss when I made the transition over. And obviously, I think they certainly called Randy to see what they were getting into. But no, I worked with Randy at INDYCAR, didn't work with him at the PBR. Spent a couple of years under Sean, and at that time we were owned by Venture Capital Group out of New York called Spire, and then the transition, PBR was purchased by IMG, and now called Endeavor. As they just bought UFC, they bought the PBR, and so it was a very interesting time to see, the sport of bull riding continuing to grow, right? Selling out Madison Square Garden, going into Los Angeles, doing all those sorts of things. A movie had just come out called The Longest Ride, based off of Nicholas Sparks' novel. So there a lot of momentum on the PBR side of things, and the goal was always to get back to Indiana. In fact, my wife is from here, and so I got a call from the NHRA that said, hey, we've got this vice president of marketing position. Would you have any interest? And at that time I was still at the PBR, and said, well, it's in Los Angeles. I said, we're going back to Indiana. And the funny story was, I remember them saying, well, we've got this racetrack in Indianapolis. Maybe would you have any interest? Because I think they had an opening here on the racetrack. And would you have any interest in running that? I said, I'm not going to run a racetrack, right? I'm probably early on in my career thinking, okay, vice president of marketing, and that's a pretty big deal. Who wants to go run a racetrack? And it ended up working out. They moved the position to Indianapolis. I'd go back and forth to California. We moved here, and I did that for about a year and a half. And in that time, our racetrack here in Indianapolis, we had a really good team, but we still had a couple positions missing. And they talked about if I could help out a little bit, and we start doing it, and then the next thing you know, you start helping with the track in Atlanta and the track in Gainesville, and you're still doing the marketing stuff. And so we were able to focus my efforts on the track piece of it, and we have a former colleague of mine from the PBR that oversees the marketing side of it. So it's been a nice transition. And the funny thing is, now here I am, I'm the track guy, and the marketing stuff is, I don't think twice about it.
Yeah, but I got a feeling that you look over and see how it's going, just to make sure that...
Absolutely. We're connected at the hip, right? My role is, we have 3 racetracks now. So we have out in Pomona, California, Auto Club Raceway, at the Los Angeles County Fairplex. That facility runs twice a year. We have Gainesville Raceway, and then we have Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. So those are my responsibilities. We have boots on the ground in each of those locations. We have great teams. So so I'm connected on drag racing and the NHRA side pretty deeply. The marketing efforts, selling tickets, that's our number one business.
There's been a lot of things going on since you come over. And the other thing that I've noticed, I found kind of interesting, at every one of your stops you've been a vice president. You didn't come in as some schmutz. They give you a broom, and here's an office, take a call every so often. So obviously you have brought something to the table that is needed, and certainly here, when you came here, there was a need for more oomph, get it going. And then Lucas Oil came in, which had to be a big help.
Right.
But as many people noticed, and I'm sure you did as soon as they changed the name, people went, where's that? I had that a lot of time. They're running at Lucas Oil Racing. Where the heck is that? Remember IRP? Yeah, well, that's the same facility, just a different name. And it's kind of interesting when I found out that the guy that handles that kind of business for Lucas Oil is none other than Brandon Bernstein,
right.
Kenny Bernstein's son.
Right.
And what was it? Did you approach them about changing the name back, or did he come to you?
Yeah, so I think the conversation, so we just celebrated 10 years of Lucas Oil being the title sponsor of the facility. So they've been here for quite some time, certainly predates me. And I don't think you'll find bigger supporters than Forrest and Charlotte. What they've done, not only for this facility, but for drag racing and for racing in general, and for the city of Indianapolis, right? I mean, there's a bigger conversation there. So we're really fortunate to kind of just be part of the family there. We started to talk about our extension for the naming rights of this property were coming up, and we had the conversation in Atlanta, Georgia last year with Brandon to say, hey, as we think about the future, one of the things that we get asked about quite often were, I still call it IRP, and when's NASCAR coming back? So those were kind of some of the check boxes as you think about the job and everything. And so we talked and we said, is there a way to incorporate the IRP piece of it with Lucas Oil? And Brandon, you talk about his lineage and his history and his dad and his success here. Said, look, this place means a lot to me. IRP, the name means a lot to me. He gets it, right? He's not some person that just came in from branding, pet food somewhere. He came in here and understood it, and said, hey, we think that there's a way to make this all work. We can reincorporate it. So really, it was kind of a collective effort, and he really drove the ship on their side. And I think when we announced it in November, right before PRI, it was an announcement that we certainly, there was so much positive momentum around it, and we continue to build off of it.
It's amazing how that name has stuck. Even for 10 years it was changed. People still refer to it as IRP.
Yep.
And when I'd say Lucas Oil Raceway, where's that? IRP. Oh, why don't they name it that? I don't know. They changed the name because Lucas Oil's
I tell a funny story. So, Lucas Oil, they're a big supporter of a lot of things. So they've got a stadium downtown. I don't know how many deliveries of various things have come here to our shipping gates, and come to find out it was supposed to go to Lucas Oil Stadium, right? But my mother, and they also own a racetrack in Wheatland, Missouri called Lucas Oil Speedway. My mom had locked herself out of her house about 3 years ago, and she tried calling. She's calling Lucas Oil Speedway, asking them for Kasey Kohler, and they have no clue who Kasey Kohler is. And here she is, and so finally she gets into her house, and she's like, I thought I tried calling your work. I was like, no. There's Lucas Oil Speedway, there's Lucas Oil Raceway. And I said, okay, if there's that confusion there, how many other folks don't know where we might be located? So we're happy to have the IRP piece of it back.
Well, there's no question that Forrest and Charlotte have got their feet totally into motorsports of all kinds. MAV TV is doing very well.
Right.
Shows racing 24/7.
Yep.
And they, like you said, they sponsor all kinds of things. And all to think of a guy, a truck driver, who came up with a product that he sold at truck stops, and look what it is today.
It's unbelievable.
It's huge.
It is.
It's amazing. And they have no objection to spending to bring, because everybody knows Lucas Oil now.
Right.
If you don't, you've got your head in the sand.
Right.
So the change was made. Since you've been here, there's been a lot of upgrades in the facilities. I think the grandstands have been updated. The track has been, the oval has been redone. The drag strip is always manicured because the biggest drag race in the world is held right here.
That's right.
This coming season, you're running from starting, would have been this weekend, but now it'll be next weekend through October. Are you bringing in more events than normal? It seems to me that you are.
Yeah, so last year we did about 174 of event days last year. That's a ton of event days. I think, and if you asked our staff, it's probably almost too much. I think the focus for us has been, it continues to be quality over quantity. Just to host events just for the sake of hosting events doesn't do anything for the property, doesn't do anything for our staff. So, we continue to bring new events in, hopefully bigger events. But I do think that there's also this point of we've got to balance. We can't just run every single day out here. We've got to make sure that we've got the right events in here. So you think about where we were, 3 years ago. Last year we brought SRX back here to the track and did an unbelievable. That was a great event. We didn't know what to expect, but with Elio winning his fourth over there and his first time back here in Indianapolis, and the reaction for that. Paul Tracy, we did the stunt with the police car and had him brought up, and then obviously Tony Stewart being here. That event had a lot of energy. Having the truck series come back, that was you talk about obviously we get asked about the NASCAR coming back, but there's a gentleman by the name of Duke Thorson who runs Thor Sport over on the Truck Series. He's a big proponent of IRP and the history that this track had. You know, they had asked us a year ago if there was ever an opportunity to bring the Truck Series back here, and you know that they're a key contributor of why we're running the T-Sport 200 this year. And then on top of that, we're adding the ARCA Menards series as part of that night. That's going to be a big night of racing. So that's one piece of it. And then there's another side of it that, you know, a year ago we had an event that, if you ask me and you still tell people, you know, we're bringing a group called Cletus and Cars here. You know, people start laughing. They think it's, you know, it's some, you know, country rock band or whatever else it may be. And here we come to find out, you know, we sell out 10,000 tickets almost instantaneously with this event. And it's Cletus and all of these YouTube sensations that do something in the automotive and motorsports world. And now they're back for a multi-year deal here. They're going to be coming in. It's a 2-day event. That's another instance of a bigger event taking over our weekend. So we continue to add, and then we've reinvested on the drag strip and then on the oval. You know, the oval piece of it, I think we really kind of beat the drum last year, is we need to kind of control our destiny. We had a lot of events that came through here. They rented the facility. Some were good, some were bad, some were in between. But at the end of the day, just like you talk about, you came out here, you went to Lucas Oil Raceway or Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, and if you didn't have a great event, you didn't know who the third-party promoter was over here. They just knew that the event wasn't very good, there was nobody here. So we really kind of took that under our own wing and started to kind of control our own destiny a little bit, and it's been really well received and warmly supported.
The part of this facility is there's a 2.5-mile road course. The last time that I'm aware that they ran, INDYCAR ran there in the 80s, I think it was.
Yeah.
Is there any thought to redo that and bring it back to life?
Yeah. So if you think about where our property is, and we're over 60 years old now, and I think... so
am I.
Well, you guys were born together.
Yeah.
But as we think about the reinvestment, right? The facility started to get a little tired, and so now, as you mentioned, over the past couple of years, being able to finally reinvest in the property. We as the NHRA just sold a track in Atlanta, Georgia last fall. That allows us to reinvest in this track. It allows us to reinvest in Pomona as well as Gainesville. But yes, the road course, as we think about it, that drag strip, we have to continue to invest. It's the world's biggest drag race. The oval, now that we've got NASCAR back, there's things that we have to reinvest from a safety perspective to get it up to speed. The road course is on the list, and what I would say is, if somebody thinks we're flipping the switch that it's going to be 2.5 miles and that we'll have it tomorrow, we're not there. But are there portions of the road course that we can do that people can utilize it, with the goal long term that we have a fully functioning road course? I think that's where we want to be. If you think about the road course today, it incorporates the drag strip. That makes it kind of problematic if you want to go have Tony Stewart Racing testing on the drag strip on a Monday. Boy, that's going to push all your road course stuff off. So I think, you know, as we think about the property and how we lay it out, we'd love to figure out a way that it does incorporate the drag strip. And then on top of that, you know, we just announced, the town of Brownsburg announced a couple of weeks ago that we'll have a new entrance into this facility off of Ronald Reagan, which will be kind of our new front door to the property. You know, that's probably a 2023 type timeline, but they're already starting to work on that today. That's going to be a big portion of how we kind of lay out the property.
Now, for those who don't know, who haven't been here for one reason or another, on the west side of the facility is a campground.
Yep.
You have electric there.
There is. That is a property that we do not own.
Oh, I thought you did.
I know, a lot of people. So Raceway Campground, the Partlows, they've run that for a number of years. We work closely with them because they take care of a lot of our guests, but that is owned separately.
But it's still available, and of course, when you come by, particularly for the U.S. Nationals, the place is packed. But for Tony Stewart, they had a good crowd. Now, is SRX Series coming back this year?
It won't be back this year. I know they did a kind of a mix of some new tracks that they wanted to go to, and a couple of other ones that they had on there. So when we talked to them last year, when it came in, we thought it was a one and done. And then there was some talk about, hey, maybe it might be able to come back in 2022. But I think they wanted to try some new facilities. So we hope that it does as well as it did this past year, and maybe in the future it sees a return.
Are you looking to bring in anything else now that you've taken over a couple of, as you said, leased the track, and it was didn't do all that well? I mean, you got paid, but that's not the point. Are you looking at bringing in other events to replace these?
Yeah. So if we think about the next couple of years, I think we'd like to see probably one or two bigger events on the drag strip. What do those look like? Maybe it's in the historical or nostalgia side of thing. We just started working with a group called the Nostalgia Drag Racing League. They've now taken the weekend after the U.S. Nationals. That event, I think, has a lot of opportunity to continue to grow. We also think about, we just started a new thing that will be for 2022, which is on about 4 of our Saturday nights, a streetcar Saturday night. There's a group that comes through here called Streetcar Takeover, very popular. We see a lot of really 18 to 34-year-olds that we never see throughout the year. But if you look at the tech card that we get from them, we notice that they're from Central Indiana. And as you think about the NHRA's core mission, people don't realize we're a not-for-profit. The NHRA really, we're known for professional drag racing, but the founding mission and core goal of this organization is to get people off the street of street racing, right? It still happens. It happens on the south side of Indianapolis today. And we want to be able to try to meet those customers where they're running. So Saturdays have been traditionally, we run all of our other stuff. We don't allow streetcars to come out here on a Saturday night. And so that's something that we're doing this year to really try to cater more to those younger racers, the up and coming racers that might not want to strap themselves into a dragster. But then you talk about other bigger events. We would love to see the opportunity of, recreating something like a Good Guys type event, right? When Good Guys was out here, that was a signature event of this property. We'd love to see something like that in the future. And then there's I hope over the next couple of years, something that we can do on a portion of the road course that celebrates Indiana's automotive history. And I think that that's something that you'll hopefully see from us, coming down the road.
Well, as you're, I'm sure, aware, and everybody else is, BMW is building a building on the Speedway property near Turn 3. Is there any discussion about, hey, BMW, we got a nice track over here?
I would say that we've worked very closely with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, the IEDC. Raleigh Helmling has been a big piece of that. There's been a number of discussions with automotive entities, BMW not being one of them, and the team over at IMS has done a fantastic job. But there's other automotive groups that are looking at Central Indiana and the Midwest. And I think as we think about the redevelopment of some of the property on the west side, that there's a natural ability to upgrade that road course, get somebody here where they can do their arrive and drives. They can do testing of new products and have their R&D facilities or headquarters right across the street here. So, hopefully we'll see something in the coming years, but that's an active conversation we have.
Have you heard anything or talked to anybody from the Shelby Group?
Yes. So that we'll see where that goes in the future.
Well, they've been in town a couple of years ago. I don't know if they haven't been here the last couple of years that I'm aware of, but they have been here because I went to one of their meetings and met Shelby's grandsons, I think it was. Carol's grandsons were involved in the thing. I think it's very interesting how you have progressed from graduating from IU, coming from Michigan, and Michigan says, what the hell is that? And you come here. And right off the gate, you go to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is phenomenal to have picked up a job there, moved on to the Indy Racing League, the manager of the business affairs, and became vice president of marketing for INDYCAR. I had forgotten you were there, because when I go to look up your number, 492 was there. That's right, he was here. I forgot that. I don't know if I pestered you that. I think I did once.
We did a couple of lunches at times.
And then you went on to the bull riding, which I found very interesting. And I thought, in my mind, what Randy Bernard has done, he stumbled a little here, and I think he was in the wrong position, in my opinion. Great guy. Anytime I invited him, he was president of INDYCAR, he'd show up on a Tuesday night. Never an argument. If he was available, he was there. In fact, I called him just a few months ago and said, would you do sit down, Zoom? He said, sure. And when he's gone from the bull riding to the country television and built that thing huge, amazing. And he gets a phone call from some guy that strums a guitar. Right. And he said, I knew him, but I didn't know what he wanted, and spent 3 or 4 days in the same clothes at his place. And now here he is in his career, and they're going bigger than ever. I mean, this guy is a phenomenal guy. I really enjoyed him. Now you're the vice president of track management and operations, and you got somebody else doing the marketing with you peeking every so often to see how the ticket sales are doing. How is this place, do you go out actively looking for sponsors of events? Are you having, are people saying, yeah, this is a place that is good?
It's a big part of the job, right? Is going out and figuring out how does this stuff get funded. We can all have ideas. We probably get 5 to 10 phone calls a week of people that have ideas, but it really, the rubber meets the road, no pun intended, when there's execution, and then there's the dollars and cents that allow you to be able to do these events and take the risk, right? You've got to make sure that you've got dollars in the bank and partners that are behind you to help you try new events and try new things. If you just go out there and say, hey, I've got this big idea and I hope I sell a bunch of tickets, I learned a long time ago, hope is not a strategy, right? I mean, it's not certainly not a solution, but you've got to make sure that you've got partners that are willing to support that. And so that's a big part of our business. We've got a very talented young lady named Elise Aguilar who oversees all of our sponsorships and our partnerships. I work very closely with her, that we work with our national partners and our local partners, and yes, sponsorship, be it on the oval, the drag strip, the road course, that's a daily conversation.
And are you having trouble securing backing for the events you want to propose?
We're very supportive. We've got a lot of support, and we've got a lot of new support. That's the neat thing about this, is we've seen a lot of new support over the past 2 years come out to this track, and the people that were here have stuck by us, and they've continued to grow their support. So we've got a lot of new folks. I think being able to do the oval has certainly, we're sold out of our suites for the year on that oval, and that's driven by a lot of area businesses that want to see that grow and thrive.
I think it's interesting a lot of times, and you hear it, television, everything, how companies are struggling, but yet if you hit the right one and they know how to pursue, they can gain, which is the whole idea. You're working for them to help them accomplish what they come to you and say, here's what we want to do. How can you help us and make it work? One thing I don't see a lot of, and it's probably because I don't watch a lot of terrible amount of television, is I don't see a lot of advertising of upcoming events. Now, I know you can find them on your website, which is?
Yeah, so it's raceirp.com.
And your schedule is all on there.
All on there, but you bring up a really good point. How we advertise our events today is almost completely different than how we advertised our events 6 years ago, right? Our traditional marketing was, okay, we're going to put 60%, 70% into TV. We're going to do 30% into radio, or 20%. We're going to do print and then maybe we'll throw a little bit towards digital. Now we've drastically shifted. We'll do a little bit on television, but we put a lot of our effort and resources behind digital. It's much more cost effective. We talk to a lot of our fans. How often do you watch TV? Well, I don't watch as much TV as I used to. Do you ever get on your social media channels? Do you ever check Facebook? Well, yeah, I do that once, twice, 3 times, sometimes an hour, sometimes a day. Are you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? Are you doing those sorts of things? If You go, yeah. Well, now we're able to have a bit more of a dialogue, and we know what's going on the digital side. We still spend money when it comes to TV and some traditional on the radio side of it, but it's not nearly what it used to be. And the results, they're trackable, right? We can see where our dollars are going. So yeah, it's a good point.
And I think it's a good way to go because first off, you get on, it doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
Your only expense is the people that do the work,
Right.
which you'd have anyway. So you can go into these Instagram and Twitter and stuff, and it doesn't cost you anything to put it there, and there's millions that looking at it. Now, have you ever had trouble with the guy that runs Facebook say you can't put on what you're doing?
No, we don't push the envelope to that level. We do have a very talented gentleman by the name of Tanner Watkins who joined us about 1.5 years ago, and Tanner does all of our digital. He does all of our creative. He's got a ton of talent and has done a really nice job. So we're very fortunate that we have somebody that can go out there and communicate to all of our customers. If you think about it, what's difficult about this facility versus our track in Gainesville? The track in Gainesville, we're talking about drag racing 24/7, 365 days a year. Here, we've got an audience that wants to hear about oval racing. They want to be NASCAR fans, they might be open wheel fans, they might be Cletus and car fans, right? That have no interest whatsoever in motorsports. And then, oh, by the way, we've got drag racing over here. We've got the world's biggest drag race, we've got bracket racing, we've got the streetcar crowd, right? So, we've got one channel, and you could say, well, why don't you create a social media account for this one and that one? And well, that's one person to manage 7 different accounts. That's pretty darn tough, especially when you start getting into Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So having one channel, one voice, and being able to do that, he does a really nice job.
Does he update it frequently?
Probably 3 to 4 times a day.
That I found at one time there was a group of guys that, you probably knew the guys at IMS, and they'd put up stuff. There were 3 of them.
Yeah.
And they put stuff, 8, 10 new things every day.
Yep.
And that really got people's attention. Now, I don't, silly as I am, in what I do I go to INDYCAR or IMS.com? No, because I get everything sent to me anyway, so I don't look, but it's there. I just don't look at it. But it's amazing what the electronic media has done for everything, you included, but for everybody. Stuff people put on if you didn't know, oh, geez, that's something going on. I've got to go see it. It works great.
Well, but I'd also say not only how you receive it Monday through Friday, be it, it used to be email marketing, right? We still do email marketing. It goes into your inbox, but a lot of it's on social, but also how are events consumed, right? It always, the thing was, why isn't your event on ESPN? Why isn't it on ESPN2? That's what Thursday Night Thunder was under, and we're fortunate when we do have some events. Fox Sports 1, we've got some big events like that, but also, there's been emergent technology. There's Flow, right? Flow Sports has come on in the past couple of years. Now you can sit at your house and watch all of these different types of racing that you've only heard about or you've seen pictures on. And that's really changed how people are able to consume or come out here to these events and still be in the middle of nowhere or overseas.
I know you, for the last few years, and longer than that probably, you've had open during the week where you can bring your streetcar out and run. Is that still going on?
Wild Wednesday. So I'd almost say it actually in 1.5 weeks will be our first Wild Wednesday of the year. And we do that traditionally 2-3 times a month. And that is the opportunity for anybody and everybody to bring their streetcar, their grocery getter, whatever it may be, race their friends, see what it's like to go down the drag strip. Yes, we do that, and it's extremely popular, continues to grow.
When is the first event? I know this weekend was supposed to be the opening day, and it's not. So opening day is now next weekend?
No, so good question. Opening day, yes, in theory, is next weekend. It'll be on the drag strip instead of the oval next Saturday, and that's just a test and tune. A lot of our local bracket racers will come out, get ready, as we have a couple of weeks of bracket racing after that. Our first oval event will be the Carb Night Classic on Friday, May 27th. That has the road to Indy as well as the National Pavement Midget Series that we run here, and the USAC Silver Crown Series. So that will be Friday, May 27th. Opening day, which we were supposed to have in 2 days, but we're going to get frozen out here, is moving to Monday, August 1st. And people say, wow, August, March, that doesn't seem like, that's a long postponement. As we think about all the different racers that race with us, all the different series that are involved, boy, it's really tough to find an open date, right? And so we started to look at the calendar. That Monday, August 1st will be right after the Brickyard, I'll call it the Brickyard 400, the road course. You know, we'll be running on Friday night with the truck series. We have super late models on Saturday night, have a day off on Sunday. We'll run this event on Monday. And then hopefully maybe IMS will have, you know, that's right around the time normally the BC 39 sits there. So we'll see where they kind of come in with that. And that could be a really nice, you know, 7 days of racing.
The only concern I have, across my mind, is after the Nationals, you're bringing the vintage the following weekend. Now, you probably haven't noticed, but the cost of fuel ain't a giveaway anymore.
No.
A little over a year ago, I filled up at $1.91. I just filled my truck up, which normally took $28 to $34, cost me $50 for the same amount of fuel. Has anybody said to you, geez, that's great, but it costs a lot of money to get here?
Right. So we do hear that. And the unique thing is on our oval events, we offer free parking and free camping. So people can make that tow in. So if they wanted to come for the NASCAR truck race, we have free camping. They can stay all the way through the Brickyard 400 weekend, stay for our Monday event, and heck, stay through the BC 39 if that ends up being on that week. And it costs them $0. So we recognize that. The Indy 500 weekend, we do the same thing. For the Carbonite Classic, you can move in on Thursday at noon, and you can leave on Monday following the Indy 500 at noon and spend $0 on camping.
Is that the campground on the west side of the Speedway?
That's it actually lives outside of turn 3 and 4.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
On the property.
Yep.
Well, obviously, you haven't had many people on your staff, including yourself, fall asleep at the desk. You've taken everything into consideration and are making it possible, and I'm sure you're stressing that. It may cost you to get here, but once you're here, it's free.
Yeah.
And that's I think that'll be a huge point.
Right.
Extremely so.
Right.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. I've been wanting to get with you, and we've tried on a couple of occasions, and now it's worked out.
Thank you, Don.
My hat is off to you, and I know you don't do everything yourself, but you oversee everything that's going on. And you and NHRA are doing a great job with this place. And I hope I live long enough to see the road course. And I'd like to see IndyCars run again one more time. It was kind of an interesting race when they did run here.
It'd be a lot of fun. We were just having this conversation the other day with some folks that are looking to do something in May, and they talked about, you know, the 500, and you know, that's where Mario won his first ever IndyCar race, was out there on that road course, right? That is the first ever IndyCar road course race, was right out there. So there's a lot of history out there that people don't know about. So we would love to see that back up and running too.
Well, it seems that NHRA is doing well. Things are going along. Wally Parks is gone, but it has continued in his name going forward and done extremely well. And my hat is off, as I said to you, although I'm not wearing one, for what's happened out here, and I hope it will continue, which I know it will. And hopefully get out here for a few events and see the place packed again. Yeah,
that's why we show up to work every day and do what we do, is to build exciting events. It comes back to, you know, hopefully creating lasting events that people are excited to attend, and kind of make that a tradition with, be it their friends, their family. So we're excited about what 2022 brings us, but also where the future is going to go.
Well, as I said when we started this, I can remember when Infinity and trucks came here, you had to put up more grandstands because it drew 45,000 people. I hope that continues. And for the events that come here, the champ cars and so forth, you fill the grandstands you got again, because it's a good place to race, good exciting racing, and you've made the track more raceable.
Well, thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. My guest, He is the Vice President of Management and Track Operations for Indianapolis Raceway Park. We'll be back again. We've got some other guests lined up in the future, so thank you for watching tonight. Until the next time, Don Kasey saying thanks for being here. We'll see you again.